What's up, y'all? Y'all know who it is. Y'all know what it is. Your boy JP coming to y'all live from the house, and today we're talking about wiring up subs. I have two dual voice coil 4 ohm subs from CT Sounds, and they're going to go into this box, and I'm going to show you how to wire up your own system. And these are the type of things that you're into. Please consider subscribing. These are the type of things that we do: car audio tutorials, radio removals, anything car audio install related. That's what this channel is about. And you can go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, share if you want to, because guess what? It's free, takes zero energy to support. So without further ado, man, let's get right on into it. You see that copper ring right there on the inside, that little cylinder? That's called the voice coil. These push terminals hook up to these tinsel leads. They're woven onto the spider, and inside of that, it goes straight to the voice coil. And however many times it's wrapped around gives us a resting impedance or resistance at these terminals. So the first thing I want to do is I want to test the impedance to make sure that these are dual 4. So I'm going to take my digital multimeter. I'm going to go to the little omega symbol, which stands for ohms or resistance. And I'm going to take my probes, put the black in the black and the red in the red. Now that that's in there, it's going to read my impedance or my resistance. So it's like a 3.4, 3.5, 3.6, which is technically a 4 ohm load. Sometimes you can actually, sometimes you may have a little bit of resistance between your prongs itself, so you do have to take account into that, but that is 4 ohms. So we're just gonna turn this thing over. And we have the exact same thing on the other side. So now I know that we have dual voice coil 4 ohm subs. And the dual voice coil basically just means that there is 2 sets of positive and negatives on your subwoofer. So if you have a single voice coil sub, you will only have 1 set of positive and negatives, not 2. We got dual, so let's show you how to wire these up. I need you guys to understand the difference between series wiring and parallel wiring. When we take the positive from one voice coil and hook it up to the negative on the other voice coil, we have just series the sub, which means we're going to add our resistances together. So we're going to take the 4 ohms here and add 4 ohms there, which now makes this a 8 ohm sub by itself. And you see right there 7.4. It's been bouncing between 7.4 and 7.5, but that's because these was reading like 3.5 and 3.6 earlier. And the next way that we can wire this sub up is by using parallel wiring, which means that we take the positive on one side and we hook it up to the positive on the other side. We take the negative on this side and we hook it up to the negative on the other side. And that will bring the resistance down to a 2 ohm load. So I have my prongs in on there, and we're reading about 1.8. It was bouncing between 1.8 and 1.9 rather, but that's still going to be a 2 ohm load by dividing the resistances. So after editing this, I realized there's an equation that'll actually help you guys out with learning about parallel wiring, and that is R over N. R stands for the ending resistance divided by the number of resistances. Now let me give you some examples. Let's say you have two 4 ohm subs. R will be 4 ohms, N will be 2. 4 divided by 2 is a 2 ohm load. Let's say you have two 2 ohm subs. R will be 2 ohms, N will be 2, the amount of resistances that you have left over. 2 divided by 2 is a 1 ohm load. Now let's say you have 3 4 ohm subs. R will be 4 ohms, N will be 3. 4 divided by 3 is a 1.33 ohm load at the amp. Now let's get back to the video. So why is all this important? Well, you need to know this because when you buy a dual 4 or a dual 2 or whatever, you need to know, since it has 2 voice coils, both of these has to be hooked up. So if you buy a dual 4 ohm sub, 4 ohms is not going to be your ending impedance at the amp. At least that's not what the amp is going to see. So you're going to have to series this so the amp sees 8 ohms, or you're going to have to parallel it and divide the resistance so the amp sees 2 ohms, which can be even more confusing when you start talking about wiring up 2 subs. So I'm going to give you guys the wiring options and the one that I'm going to choose to go with, also how to wire that up. Now let's talk about wiring options. So now we know the difference between series wiring and parallel wiring. We know that if we take our 2 dual 4 ohm subs and we series both of them, then these dual 4s will become 2 8 ohm subs. Now We can parallel these two inside the box, which will give us an ending impedance of 4 ohms. But what's our other option? We can parallel these subs, which means divide the resistance. So we'll take that dual 4 ohm sub and make each one of these a 2 ohm sub. And then we can also parallel it again to where it takes those two 2 ohm subs down to a 1 ohm load at the amp. These are dual 4s, and I want that 1 ohm load at my amp. My amp is 1 ohm stable. Let's wire this down to a 1 ohm load. So I'm gonna tell you what I like to do first. I like to go ahead and take the terminal cup off of the box. And I will go ahead and actually install my wire on here and then run that into the side of the box. Now with this terminal cup, it has a couple of different ways that you can connect this thing. So you can use the spade terminals, like the speaker terminals, on these two, or you can use like a ring terminal, put on there, tighten it down. I'm actually going to solder right on top of here. So I'm going to strip some wire back, stick it through, and then we're going to solder our connection right there. And then you can heat shrink tape it up to look all nice and neat. But that way I know I have a solid connection at my terminal. So I like to wire the subs up separately, then I wire them together inside the box, so I only have one wire coming out of my terminal cup. So I'll show you again, positive on this side, negative on this side, which is going to the rest of my wire that's sitting like that. And then I twist these two together. And that is one thing I like about these CT sound subs. If I'm not mistaken, these things have 8 gauge push terminals, and this is 12 gauge wire. I mean, it's not small stuff. So when I twist this together, it kind of mimics an 8 gauge wire almost, either that or in between 8 and 10, but either way, it takes it like a champ. All right, y'all, so now we actually got this thing wired up. I want to measure both of the subs just to make sure that's reading 1.8. All right, so that's what I want at the end of that. And we have another 1.8 on the end of that sub with my prong just kind of stuck in there. So now, since this one's reading 2, this one's reading 2, I'm just rounded up. When I match these two together, they should read 1, or it might say 0.8 or 0.9 or something like that. All right, y'all, so we have this dual 4 paralleled at the sub to make it a dual, to make it a 2. We have this dual 4 parallel at the sub to make it a 2. I have both of my wires coming right here to this point, and with my probes in, we are reading that 0.9. Like I said, it'll probably be 0.9, but this will be a 1 ohm load going to our amplifier. So that's why I did the terminal cup separate. So now I can take my wire that's soldered to my terminal cup, I can cut it right here, twist it together with these, solder these wires, electrical tape, zip tie, heat shrink, whatever your preference, and then now we have everything wired up, and I only have one wire coming from my terminal straight to my amp. So I'm gonna start by dropping this sub in first, and then I'm gonna pull the wire from this side onto this side, and then I can do all my wiring and soldering right here while that sub's in. I usually strip this a pretty good length. All right, so now we have it right here. I've already put a little solder before my battery ran out, but I went ahead and put some Super 33 electrical tape around there, threw 2 zip ties on each one. Now if you don't have any solder, that's fine, you can just use straight wire and then do this same method. If you have heat shrink, go ahead and use your heat shrink. I don't have any, so that's what I used. Now this right here is a really good connection because, for one, you have a wire to wire connection, so there's no loss in resistance there between different like butt connectors or anything like that. You could use butt connectors, but if you don't get a good crimp on it, then that may be a fail point. We know that this connection is solid. And now we have that going to our terminal cup. Let's turn on our meter, and boom, See, it's bouncing between 1 and 0.9. That's what we want. So now what do we do with this much wire inside the box, right? Because if you're gonna be beating, then that thing might be beating along with it, and you'll be hearing this inside the box, and we don't want any type of noise. Well, what I like to do is I like to go ahead and zip tie this up first. All right, I just threw 2 zip ties on there, and you don't have to use as much wire as me, but one thing that I've learned over the years is that I like to wire my subs up outside the box, and that way you don't have to try to wire them up and the wire be so short and tight, and it's just hard to get to. So we're gonna wire this up like this, and we have 2 options on making sure that that stays where it needs to. We have another zip tie, but it actually has a hole in the top, and what that hole is for you to put a screw inside of that. That way we can literally put this screw inside of here, and we can mount that to the bottom of the box, or right here, wherever, just to mount it. Or we have this little wire guide, little clamp situation. It's not actually a clamp, but what it does is you can take some of your wire, put it inside of it, and then you'll take that same screw, and then you can actually use this to mount to the wood. So have all these links in the description for you so you can use this stuff yourself. But we can literally take that, go to the inside of the box, and then just put a screw in it. I can't do that with 2 hands, so let me do it and show you what that looks like. So what I use is my Milwaukee right angle drill for the wind, and went ahead, took that and just drilled it right up here. So now I got that locked in, and now I can drop both of my subs in and just screw the subs down in the box. And when I get done screwing everything inside the box, I like to make sure I keep that on, so I know that we're still reading that 1 ohm load that my amp is gonna see, just so when we're done with the finished product, when we go in there, we all good. We are using number 6 1.25" dry rod screws. I'd rather use the number 8s, but the number 6 would do fine. Alright, now that's it for this one. I hope you guys found some type of value in this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, share, comment if you want to. Shout out to CT Sounds for providing product just so I can make this video, and downforsoundshop.com. I'm a big firm believer in supporting the brands that support us, so make sure you guys go hit those links in the description and check those 2 companies out. All the other links will be in the description for the products that we use in the video and what to watch next, so you can install your own stuff. So till next time, this your boy JP signing out. Y'all be blessed.